Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of StreamYard Spotlight. I'm co-host Dana Bentz.
And I'm co-host Kelsey Bentz. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I'm already seeing so many people in the comments. We have NLTMW. Hello.
Hey, Mike.
Thanks for tuning in. Hey,
Hey,
Marissa. We have Nadine.
Love it. All our super fans. Grandma. Thanks for tuning in.
Hey, Rob.
Hey, Rob. Awesome. Thanks so much for tuning in. And we always like to say, let us know where you're tuning in from, because it's always nice to see how global our audience is that day, every day. But we have a great show for you tonight. We get to interview the lovely Ashmere. But before we bring her on, we always like to talk about what our show is. Bentz and Bentz time. Love it. Hey, Stefan. So the StreamYard Spotlight Show is a show we created to spotlight or feature members of our StreamYard community who are using StreamYard in unique ways, in really cool ways to do shows, to do events, to do you name it, anything that can be live streamed. So this is the show where we get to do that. So without further ado, and thanks, I see everyone leaving where they're from. We have Philippines, very cool. Thanks for being here. And Cleveland, Ohio, awesome, awesome. And without further ado, let's bring on our guest tonight. Ashmere joins us to the stage.
Hi, ladies. Hello. So great to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining our show. We're super excited to have you here. For our audience members who have never seen your show, can you give us a little backstory on how you're using StreamYard and what your show's all about?
Yes, sure. So I am from the Bay Area, and I've always wanted to be a sports journalist. So I came across this website called Nuts and Bolts Sports, and I started with them in July of 2019. So almost 2 years now, and they were, we're trying to figure out a way how to live stream, because I was just doing them myself, and they suggested the website of StreamYard. And at the time, I didn't love live streaming by myself because it is a little awkward to speak solo for so long. And shout out to Marissa Callie, who is already watching, but she's the one that added me to the show for today. But
awesome.
Yeah. So we use it for just about everything under the sun. We have live streams. We did an NFL draft show last year. We are doing another one this year. We did an NBA draft show, and I literally tell everyone about StreamYard, and I've seen so many ads from here, and I'm thinking, wow, after 2 years, like, this entire platform has grown so much. It's awesome because I love the website.
No.
That's so sweet. Thank you.
It really has grown a ton. It's been incredible to see, like, even from just a year ago where StreamYard was to where it is now.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's cool to see that your shows have grown, over time. I'm sure, you must have learned a lot. Have you, do you feel like you've become, more of an expert? Like, you're now an expert on shows, going live streaming. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, so going from solo to multiple people asking to be a part of your show is like a huge transition. So now we've got, 7, 8 people there, and just doing like this split screen style, the way that it's changed since it was just me speaking and having, 2 people next to each other, or having, an entire panel. And it's just the best way to do a sports show, I feel like, because the reactions when people are giving their analysis are mainly what people watch TV for, especially sports television. Because let's say you're talking about somebody you love, and I'm sitting over here like, ugh. But it's cool to see everyone's reactions when that's happening in real time, rather than, having us behind the stage. So I'm loving the solo platform, and now I'm a host. So hosting is like juggling, as you both are doing, showing the comments, singling out my screen. It's just made me like a very multitasker, like, host. And I feel like that's a very good thing to have on your resume.
So true. Multitasking pro. When you're backstage, managing comments and banners, and then you got guests, and then you got, videos now. It's a lot. That's a lot of work. So how have you seen StreamYard help grow the brand of your sports show?
So we actually had a basketball show right before this show, and they're using essentially everything that you guys have loaded onto the site. They're using video, they're using photos, they're showing different comments, any type of video or, photo media that could be posted. It makes the entire show much more enjoyable rather than looking at just our faces the whole time, especially because, guys can talk for a long time when they're talking about sports. So it's a great way to break up like their faces. And I think that's probably my favorite part in the video now, as you just mentioned, like that is just going to change our draft show for this year, because I don't know if you ladies have ever watched an entire NFL draft, but it's very long. It's very long.
It's like all night, isn't it?
Yeah. And we only covered the first round. So
wow.
In between each pick is like probably 7 minutes or something. And so we can only talk about a guy for so long. So it's good to have their highlight footage there or talk about their reel or whatever we can to fill those gaps. Otherwise, we're just kind of like, yep, love the guy for this team. I can't wait. You're just like repeating the same thing. So the whole platform is just super helpful.
Cool. Interesting. So what about the panel? Like when you have multiple people on screen, do you normally have, I've got my whole draft of 10 people on the screen, or is it normally just a host and maybe like one guest?
Yeah, it's typically a host will like announce everyone, flash their screens up. So when you're watching the entire show, you'll remember, oh, that was Ty. Oh, that was Jordan. But then we'll just solo them out because sometimes it gets a little too crowded. And I feel like for me personally, I don't know if that's too eye-pleasing. And like I said, when you're doing sports shows with a bunch of guys and you're the only girl, you got to like figure out a way to stop them without turning off their entire camera. So it's great that I can add myself to the screen when they're on their solo point, and that will be like the cue to wrap things up,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm dissing on my team, but they're awesome. But I just am talking as men as a general scope.
Makes sense.
That's so cool. So going back a little bit, do we have a question?
We have a question from the audience. Yes. So David's wondering, what camera do you use?
I'm using a Rebel SL3. I just bought this baby. But I was going to ask you ladies what you were using, because I don't know if you could tell, but I kind of lag and you don't.
Well, I'm just using, actually, I think Kelsey and I are using the same webcam. We use the Logitech C920 webcam. Yeah, but it's pretty tricky.
Your video quality is fantastic, though. There is a tiny bit of lag, but that might be workoutable. There's some things you can adjust to get it to sync a little better.
Perfect. We'll chat more because
we'll chat.
We'll chat. That's awesome. Thanks for asking that question. Kels, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, I know you kind of touched on this, but I kind of want to go back to just the origin of your show. So did the concept for your show kind of go right into using StreamYard, or were you using another platform beforehand, or how did the origin of your show on StreamYard happen? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I think Marissa is the most familiar with StreamYard, and she was the one who introduced it to Nuts and Bolts Sports. So from there, I had pitched to them, you don't have a big female presence. I'd love to do a show. My dream is to work in sports on television and do reporting, video. And so they said, well, why don't you do StreamYard live streams? And I thought, okay, I don't know how to do this. And then that little ticker shows you how many people were there. And I was very nervous. I was like, 25 people. Whoa. So it was a lot. But yeah, so that was definitely how things rolled out. Marissa was, I think she was the most familiar, and she said that it was very user friendly. It had a lot of cool features, which I wasn't really utilizing then because I was still so nervous live. But now I feel like I'm just clicking away, controlling an entire show, which is awesome.
That is awesome. So going off of that, what is your maybe top 2 favorite features of StreamYard that you utilize?
Ooh, I definitely use the video a lot, video and photography, because we make graphics like player cards with their stats to make, just to make it feel like it's our own show. And also using the athlete highlights, like I said earlier, is just a great way to break things apart. But probably that and like the solo format. So, if you ask somebody a question, you could just have their face and you don't have to remove them from the entire broadcast. You know, before you had to like add to stream, and then now you could just click that box in the left-hand corner, which I was like, this is a game changer. It changed the whole way I hosted shows. And when we trained everybody, they were like, oh, this is perfect. You could still hear people laughing, like I said, because at the end of the day, sports is just like a huge conversation. Like, we don't know anything really until you're in the league. So we want to keep things as fun and like goofy. And I think that those two things really help.
That's interesting. It's interesting that you're using the solo feature quite a bit, because I think I see a lot of people use the bigger box, what we call the bigger box feature, a lot more, because sometimes, so this one's the bigger box feature. That's what we call the bigger box feature. And what you're talking about is the solo. So like, I'm soloed like this and you don't see anyone else. But I think a lot of people like the bigger box feature, because then the guest always sees someone, like they're always seeing who's in the stream. Because if you get soloed, sometimes like you're like, oh, did I lose everyone? Is everyone still there? But I do really like how you're really featuring them. Like, it's not just, oh, you're featuring them like this and we're still small on the side, but you're like, the whole stream is about them. So it's such a different dynamic. Yeah. But I'd love to hear.
I was going to say,
you can still hear them behind there too.
Yeah. I think that's the main point, but it's also, there's so many people that want to be a part of these shows. So if there's 5 people on the sides, I feel like it's a little distracting. But if there's 3 people like this, I think the way you have it, the big box, it's kind of cooler. But, you know, like I said, everybody carries on sometimes, like I'm doing right now.
You're the guest, you've got to.
Yes.
But I know what you mean. Like, we've done shows, like we've done panels where we're in this layout and then there's like, 10 people along the side, and you can hardly see them because they get smaller the more people you got. So I think it totally depends on your style of show, the vibe of the whatever type of event it is. Yeah. Let's see if we have any more comments. Oh, Valerie says, I love that feature too. Good.
Yes.
Ooh, Stefan, great question. When is your show, Ashmere, and where? Would love to watch.
Oh, great. Well, right now football season's over, so it's not happening, but it's on Nuts and Bolts Sports. So you could just type that into YouTube, and we've got a YouTube channel. I think I'm doing a March Madness show tomorrow on Nuts and Bolts Sports with 2 other guys. So we're going to talk about the games from last weekend, Sweet 16 predictions. And then once the NFL draft kicks in, we're going to do a nice, 2 or whatever hour show. That will be in April. But yeah, usually my shows are like every Tuesday at 7 Eastern or something. I still work, so, I have to figure it out in the middle of my day.
Still have a day job. Yeah. Perfect. Nuts and Bolts Sports on YouTube. Awesome. And speaking of engaging with the audience, how do you use StreamYard during these shows, during these events? How are you engaging with your audience members, whether it's the comments, whether you invite them on screen? Like, how does that happen with your audience?
We haven't invited anyone on screen yet. I actually need to learn that feature. I think we were a little hesitant because we already have so many people that could chat so much. I think it would just make it like a whole bromant if we did that. But definitely the same way you're adding the comments here, bringing them to light, touching on them real quickly. That's the main way I like to do it, because the more that you do that, the more you notice people continue to comment. And the way that you guys are transitioning it in, I think, is the best way. So that's how I feel like I'm doing it.
Cool. And great question from Kirk. Kirk, thanks for tuning in. Kirk does great tutorials on StreamYard on YouTube. He's asking, have you thought about off-season shows?
Yes, I did want to do an NFL Frenzy. Don't steal that idea, Kirk. Because there's so much happening in the off season. I feel like it needs to be discussed, but I also was holding that off until it was closer to the deadline, just because I could report something today and then have to do another show tomorrow. And I feel like I would love to do shorter shows, but you can never shorten your show. It's hard. It's hard to be like, I'm going to only talk for 5 minutes today and it's 15 minutes, so.
Totally. Yeah. It's a challenge.
Yeah.
So our show used to be 30 minutes and we're like, no, we want it to be like clear, concise. So we moved it to 20 minutes and it's even hard to keep it to 20 minutes. Like we get talking and the guest keeps talking and it's just so much fun to be live. So I totally hear you. Oh, Delir. Is that how you pronounce it? Thanks for StreamYard. You're so welcome. Thanks for being here. Thanks for tuning in. So sweet. Oh, I love it. I think you mentioned your some of your favorite features, but I think my favorite feature is the comments on screen because, like you said, people will keep commenting. They'll come back to your show and comment when you can interact with them. People love seeing their comments on screen. I know when I see other people's shows, I like to say, "Oh, hey, Marissa, tuning in live. Like, thanks for talking about whatever you're talking about." So yeah, I think that's a very, very fun feature of StreamYard. Kirk says that's actually okay, doing a show today and then having to do another to provide updates. Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it.
I have to quit my full-time job, Kirk. I can't. I love doing them, but you gotta Kirk, do you glam? That's what I mean. Like, did he put his makeup on today? I don't know.
That is so funny.
That's the difference. If I just had to put a t-shirt on, brush my hair, brush my teeth, sure, I'd do a show day.
I know, right? People don't understand.
I know.
Joe says StreamYard has been a huge game changer. Kirk says
so
quit.
Sweet.
Joe is the CEO of Nuts and Bolts Sports.
Joe, wow. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Yeah,
that's
thanks for
awesome
being here.
To hear. Yeah. Well, we're very lucky to get to feature the Nuts and Bolts.
Exactly.
Spotlight. This is so fun. Cool. So Ashmere, to leave us off, I know we mentioned where to find you. Thank you, Kels, for putting that link up. But for someone who's just getting started streaming, what would your advice be to them? Like what things maybe have you learned that you would pass off to someone who's just starting streaming?
Ooh, definitely proper lighting. When I first started streaming, I went by the light of the sun. And I was doing things like I would get off work at 5 and in California, it's still bright. And so I was, timing it exactly when the sun would go down. So definitely get great lighting. And I think a microphone has changed my game too. I was gifted this Yeti by my cousin, but I think any mic, I know, right? She's awesome.
That's awesome.
I think any mic is better, but you just feel like you're talking more at your normal tone compared to you think you're not transitioning it over to the computer audio. So you might be yelling, but you don't need to yell.
Yeah.
I feel like those are my two.
Yeah.
Good tips. I like that. So mic and lighting.
Mm-hmm.
Those two. We got it. Very cool. Okay, I was just going to say the last comment. Kurt says, love StreamYard. So sweet. Thanks, Kurt.
Thanks, Kurt.
Ashmere, thank you so much for giving us your tips and tricks, letting us spotlight you and your show. For those of you who are tuning in, who want to tune in to Ashmere's show, Nuts and Bolts Sports on YouTube. And it has just been a pleasure interviewing you. Thanks for being on our show.
Yes, you girls are awesome. I would come on another time if you wanted me to.
Oh my gosh, thanks
That's
so
so
much.
Sweet. Thank you so much. Well, we're coming up on our year anniversary of the Spotlight, believe it or not. So we can have you on.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We can have you on next year because it's coming up. Thanks again, Ashmere. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye. So fun. And the CEO is in our audience. Very lucky. Very cool. Well, that has wrapped up. This has been another episode of the StreamYard Spotlight. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tune in to the Nuts and Bolts, and we'll see you. Thank you so much, Mike. Thanks for being here. We'll see you in the next show. Take care, everyone.
Bye.